Good afternoon, committee members, and thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today. My name is Len Elliott, Ministry of Labour Employee Relations Committee OPSEU Chair, and this is Gib McElrath, Ministry of Labour Employee Relations Committee OPSEU Vice Chair. And as well, we are occupational health and safety inspectors for the Ministry of Labour. The 5 key points that we would like to see changed within the bill are attached below, and we would like you to take this opportunity to speak to you about the 2 points we feel as inspectors we bring a certain specific point of view to. Lack of real reprisal changes and directors writing policy into the Act having the force of law. We believe that the #1 issue that all groups should be telling you about is the lack of real strength in the reprisal section of the Occupational Health and Safety Act, as well in the new proposed Bill 160 legislation. Reprisals. Failure to protect workers from reprisal. Vulnerable workers who are victims of reprisal for their attempts to protect their health and safety are not effectively protected by this bill. Ontario workers have the right to participate, know, and refuse, and these rights must be powerfully and swiftly enforced. We are particularly concerned with the Bill 160 will place limitations on the ability of inspectors to appear before the OLRB and provide testimony and evidence to protect workers. Workers continue to die at a rate of more than 1 per day in the province of Ontario. This cannot continue, and as you go forward with your proposals from interest groups on Bill 160 and you negotiate amendments to try and reach consensus amongst yourselves to decide what the employer groups can live with and what the labour groups can live with, I'm here to tell you today our safety and our lives are not up for negotiation. You must give real strength to inspectors under Section 50 reprisals. You must allow us to properly investigate and question the parties involved so factual reports may be prepared as a basis for the law to follow its proper course, whether before the courts or the Ontario Labour Relations Board. This would ensure all parties would be held accountable. Presently, we go to a workplace on a reprisal complaint, and the policy and training from the Ministry of Labour says that we are not allowed to do anything. We only investigate the alleged complaints that brought rise to the reprisal. With you, you have the multi-language yellow document that we give out, and that's the only thing we're allowed to do, that tells the person to go to the OLRB. It is then up to the worker to hire a lawyer and travel to Toronto, have their case heard when they are not working in a reprisal scenario. In the proposed Bill 160, you have said that MOL inspectors are not competent or compellable, and therefore cannot present at the OLRB when it comes to reprisals against workers who are standing up for their rights and their lives. This piece must be changed to allow inspectors to not only investigate, but to provide their report or present evidence at the OLRB for a reprisal against workers. Employment Standards Officers in the Ministry of Labour have the power to reinstate and award remuneration for the workers in the employment standard reprisal situations. So it is not that far of a stretch to empower MOL safety officers to do this as well. We believe that this should be the main focus so that we can all help prevent a similar tragic event where 5 vulnerable workers fell from a scaffold, critically injuring 1 and killing 4 others on December 24, 2009. It is appalling to think that in Ontario in 2011, that if I speak up about safety concerns that may kill me, I may be fired or reprised against and unable to provide for my family and myself or my family. However, if I say nothing, I get to eat and provide for my family, but at the risk of death or injury to myself or my co-workers if I remain silent. On April 28th every year, fallen workers are recognized at the Day of Mourning ceremonies across the world, where at 11 a.m. we observe a minute of silence for those fallen workers. This day is recognized internationally because workers are being killed everywhere around the world. However, I cannot be silent when it comes to reprisal investigations by health and safety inspectors. You must give real strength to the reprisal section, Section 50, for the protection of workers in the province. Without the ability to do this, the expert panel was a waste of time, and those 4 workers died on December 24, 2009. They died for nothing. Powers of directors. The accumulation of powers by senior MOL bureaucrats to write law. We are deeply concerned about the section and the bill that gives directors of the ministry the authority without an oversight, without any warning, to publish policies that have the force of law. We cannot accept any legislation that gives government of the day these secret powers. The section regarding directors having the ability to write policy and that an inspector is to follow the policy will be written into the Act. No other employer gets to do this. Why does the Ministry of Labour? The Ministry says it is to do with consistency of inspectors across the province. Well, as the union chair of the Labour Relations Committee, I can tell you this is labour relations related. And management wants to control inspectors in the field or have the law on their side to help them manage rather than managing. This has the potential to make inspectors vulnerable workers by being in a position where they have to follow policy even if it contradicts the law. If a private sector employer, senior management came to the government and asked for a law that helped management to do their job, that employer would be asked or kicked out of the legislature. When the farming sector came under the jurisdiction of the Occupational Health and Safety Act in 2006, 16 inspectors first chosen for this were bringing forward objections to the ministry, how the ministry expected us to carry out inspections in this sector. This was due to pressure from the stakeholders and the farming employer groups, not workers on farms. Near the end of the 3-week training that the inspectors received, the Director of Health and Safety said to the entire group that if we cannot follow management direction as it pertains to enforcing safety within the farming sector, then maybe we should leave the program. Instead of doing the right thing and let us enforce the Act, they simply asked us to leave the farming program. This is an example of trying to control inspectors' actions that were clearly in the interest of farming sector workers of Ontario. Early on, when farms had just come under the jurisdiction, I was in a farm conducting an inspection and ended up writing more orders in one workplace than the rest of the province had written at that point. When the management got my report, I was questioned and challenged as to why I wrote that many orders, not by the employer, but by the management at the Ministry of Labour. I write orders for the protection of workers in the province, as do all of my colleagues. So when I was challenged by the when I challenged the Assistant Deputy Minister on March 3rd, 2011, the day Bill 160 was released, about the Director's policy piece and that MOL inspectors would be breaking the law if they did not follow the policy, they could not answer the questions or concerns that we had. And again, last week when I confronted the same ADM on this, he would only say he disagrees with me and that that is not the case. Well, that answer is not good enough. And in that, senior management is now hiding behind the contempt of legislature excuse to give any answers or explanation why this piece is in Bill 160 and it was not in the expert panel report. We fail to understand how the Director's piece would enhance the enforcement of the Occupational Health and Safety Act. We ask that you support the 5 changes that Labour is putting forward, and I look forward to answering any questions, and thank you again for your time today. Thank you.
Thank you. About 45 seconds time beginning.
But to your point, that's all we're allowed to do. So, to strengthen, you just got what I would give to any worker reprising the province, and I need it to be clear that we need strength in the reprisal section, because that is not good enough to protect me on the job. Thank you.
On May 3rd, the Standing Committee addressed Labour's concerns with regards to reprisals and to the power of directors. The section dealing with inspectors not being competent or compellable as a witness was removed. The section dealing with directors' powers was also removed. Third and final reading of the bill is expected before the end of May 2011.